Double, triple, ultra, monster kill.
Greetings from Pintpot. Today I'm going to be taking a quick look at the various weapon types in the game. And as a new player, what sort of loadouts you should be using with these various weapons. Now there are a number of sites which do specific weapon reviews, particularly Rel, Kamikaze78 and Drathamus Gaming. And I have put links to their channels above. But here I want to talk about the roles of each weapon type in much more general terms. And the two basic loadouts which I think all new players should have. And those are the standard short to medium term distance loadout and very close quarters combat loadout. Now excluding the max, there are 5 infantry classes in the game. And the carbine can be used by 2 of them, the engineer and the light assault. Now there's a whole variety of different carbines which specialise at different things, but these are the essentials of the weapon. Carbines are in essence an all-round weapon, but they're best to use aiming down sight. However, having said that, they do have reasonable hipfire accuracy. As a general rule, the sort of ranges you want to engage at with it are about 15 to 40 meters. Now there are a large variety of carbines designed to be specialists at close quarters combat or longer distance engagements. However, as a general rule, if you choose a weapon which is specialist at one certain area, you tend to sacrifice a great deal in its effectiveness outside of your optimal engagement zone. In other words, if you get a close quarters combat specialist carbine, don't expect it to be very effective once you get past 30 to 40 meters. And the other weakness of carbines is the size of its magazine. Taking down more than one opponent in close quarters, or just taking down a single opponent at long distance with one magazine can be difficult for newer players. Therefore, carbines could be quite punitive to players who aren't terribly accurate. So for your standard loadout for both the engineer and the light assault, you should be equipping a carbine. And for very close quarter engagements within buildings particularly, you should be using a shotgun, which I'll come to a little later. Now for medic, their standard weapon is the assault rifle. Now an assault rifle is very similar to a carbine except it has better ADS and slightly weaker hipfire. They are designed to be used aiming down sights and have a higher velocity than carbines, making them more effective at longer distances.
Oh well, he's dead.
Assault rifles relative to carbines tend to do more damage, have a greater variety of ranges of which they're effective, and are more accurate. Also, the specialist assault rifles tend to give up less than the specialist carbines in terms of their overall effectiveness. However, similar to the carbine, they also suffer from having a relatively small magazine size. Essentially, assault rifles are the best infantry weapons in the game, and for your medic loadout, you should always be running with one other than a very close quarters loadout. Now the heavy assault standard weapon is the LMG. Now you might be under the assumption that an LMG would do more damage than the alternative carbine and assault rifle. But this isn't really the case. If anything, they do the same or less damage than carbines and assault rifles. They also tend to have very inaccurate hipfire, so they're designed to be used aiming down the sights. So what they lack versus carbines and assault rifles in terms of hipfire accuracy and damage is made up with their staying power. So rather than having the standard magazine size of 30, which most assault rifles and carbines have, they have somewhere between 50 to 100 rounds per magazine. In addition, some can get extended magazines, giving them up to 200 bullets per magazine. As a general rule, the LMG performs best between 20 to 50 meters. And for your standard medium distance engagement loadout, you should be using an LMG on your heavy assault. So next I'll consider shotguns. Now the shotgun can be used on all these infantry classes other than the infiltrator. It has a very short effective range and it's best to engage the target at 10 meters or less. At distances greater than this, the number of shots to kill the target increases dramatically. However, within 10 meters, the time to kill is incredibly short. In addition, all players start off with a standard semi-automatic shotgun. Therefore, what I recommend is that every class has a second loadout specifically designed for very close quarters combat, fighting room to room, and this uses the shotgun. This is because when assaulting or defending a room, it's very difficult for the opponent to maintain distance. In close quarters fighting, the shotgun has 2 distinct advantages over the other weapons. Firstly, it has a very short time to kill. Secondly, because the way shotguns work, spraying a whole load of pellets in front of them, you don't have to be terribly accurate in very chaotic close quarters fighting to achieve a kill. So the 2 standard loadouts I think you should have for the light assault, medic, engineer and heavy assault are a medium distance loadout using an LMG, carbine or assault rifle as appropriate, and a close quarters loadout using shotguns for room-to-room fighting, which leaves the infiltrator. Now the infiltrator is a bit of an odd one out, as it doesn't start off with any close quarters combat weapon unlocked. Also, as a class, it excels at very long distances and very short distances. So you start off with an infiltrator having a sniper rifle unlocked, and this is obviously best used for longer distance engagements. Effective range on these can be anywhere between 50 meters to about 250 meters. For very close quarters combat, you want to be using an SMG. Now SMGs can be used with all the different infantry classes, and they are primarily a hipfire based weapon. Now similar to all the other weapons, they do benefit from aiming down the sights in terms of accuracy, but they benefit less than the other weapon types in terms of accuracy, and they inherently have very good hipfire. If you couple this with the ability of all the SMGs to put on laser sights, you have a weapon which is best used hip firing and maintaining mobility. Mobility being important because with most weapons who are aiming down sight, you move at half normal speed. With an SMG, if you're aiming down the sights, you maintain 0.75 normal speed, or if you're hip firing, 100% normal speed. This mobility makes people using SMGs very much harder to hit than someone aiming down sights. So they're a close quarters orientated weapon, but best used hip firing between say 10 to 20 meters. Within 10 meters, you'll be outgunned by shotguns, and past 20 meters, the hip fire accuracy starts to fall off relative to alternative weapons aiming down sights. Now you can use this on all classes, but I would recommend in the early game only using it on an infiltrator. And later on, as you become more experienced, if you find that using hip fire and maintaining mobility is really what you like, then using an SMG loadout also makes sense, provided you're going to be fighting in pretty close quarters. Now the other weapon types I haven't really touched on are scout rifles and battle rifles. Now battle rifles can be used by all infantry types other than infiltrators. They are a semi-automatic weapon and designed to be used at long distances. My personal advice to newer players is don't bother with these weapons. They can be very effective, but only in the hands of a very skilled player. This is because they're both semi-automatic and don't have incredibly high damage, meaning that misses are heavily punished. So a player such as myself, who doesn't have great accuracy, does terribly with them. In the hands of a skilled player, you can make them work. I'll refer you to a video from Mukas.
Thinking it was my standard issue concussion.
Whoa, I finally killed someone! As for scout rifles, they're the sort of medium-term engagement weapon for infiltrators. The semi-automatic scout rifles are very similar to the battle rifle, and again I wouldn't recommend it for beginners. The automatic scout rifle is very similar to the SMG, but is really designed for engagements of 20 to 30 meters. Personally, I don't think the scout rifles are great, and I would steer clear of them in the early game. Their one outstanding feature being that the automatic scout rifle is much cheaper than SMGs, only costing 250 certs. So, in conclusion, I strongly recommend new players having two basic loadouts, one for medium distance engagements and one for very close quarters combat using shotguns, the exception being infiltrators where you should go for SMGs. Now there are a host of videos out there which look at individual weapons, reviewing them, and as you get a little experience in the game, I really recommend you taking a look at these. I have also put links in the description below. If you found this episode interesting or useful, please feel free to thumbs up, thumbs down, comment or subscribe as appropriate. In the meantime, have a good one, happy hunting, and Pintpot out.